It's hard to pick one thing that was more difficult than another. The whole process, once you're finished with the transplant itself, the 10-day period I was talking about is very difficult. And then once you start to feel better, as much fun as I was having, I wanted to go home. I guess I wanted familiar surroundings again. And I've noticed in the course of having the disease, in your down times, what you want is something familiar, something that you know, something you're used to. And I think I missed that. And being home and all the precautions we had to take, and wearing the mask when you go out, and places that I couldn't go, crowds, I couldn't be in a crowd. So there were a lot of things associated with a transplant that, while unpleasant, were not unbearable. But it was not familiar, it was not comfortable. And that's what I missed the most, the routine.
After my 3 weeks in the hospital, I did need to stay locally for I think I was here about 4 or 5 more days. And it's just awesome what the State Employees Credit Union has done in conjunction with the hospital to put together Family House. My daughter and I stayed there for 4 or 5 days before we were able to go back to Charlotte, just until the doctors cleared me and everything looked okay. But that's just an outstanding venture. I think that I was such a lucky person. I fared so well with the transplant, in my opinion. And I thought the recovery that was involved after I was discharged went exceedingly well and exceedingly fast. I was a little tired when I was first released, but not that badly. I think the reason for that was because I had stayed so active while I was in the hospital. So when I left the hospital, I really was not that lacking in energy. My hemoglobin was back up to a reasonable level, and I had a pretty fair amount of energy.
I had no major complications as a result of my transplant. I think the biggest thing is that with the whole circumstance, I was losing some of the energy and the resistance to diseases. I could catch a cold a little quicker and so forth, but I was very, very fortunate. I only had a couple of little challenges in terms of catching a cold or something, and then it was just so exciting that the team was just so sharp with respect to that. If I started to cough or develop chills or or anything along the way, or if I developed any nausea, I mean, kaboom, the team was there. After I was discharged, I did have to stay local, and I stayed 7 months here in the Durham, Chapel Hill area. My daughter was in school here and lived just down 15501, just in Durham, inside Durham. So I was very fortunate. When we got her apartment, I decided that we'd get her a 2-bedroom apartment just in case. So it turns out that we became her roommates.
The complications I had from the transplant itself were the ones that I knew I would have. Like, they told me that I may get some fever, a rash, my throat might hurt, those type things. So the minute I would say something, they would already know it was coming. The nurses knew exactly what was going to happen and when, and they were already prepared for it. So I didn't really have any complications that I didn't expect until I had gallbladder problems. And then they had to take my gallbladder out, and I became toxic. So I had some problems there. But from the actual transplant itself, just the graft-versus-host disease, I have that, and it keeps coming, keeps popping up. But other than that, nothing major. The most difficult part about recovering is the fatigue. I'm used to going and doing and being independent, and it's not like that. I get tired very easily, and that's aggravating to me. Also, the amount of medicines that I take, because the medicines, it's like you take something to suppress, to suppress your immune system, but then you take something else that will offset its complications, and then something else to offset their complications. So the amount of medicines that I take a day, that's a little difficult recovering. And besides the medicines and the fatigue, the forgetfulness, I used to be able to stay right on top of things and not forget, but now I forget, or I'll start something and it's like my mouth wants to say it or my brain is thinking it but doesn't come out, and I don't know if that's from the transplant itself or from the medications. The doctors say it's mainly the medicines. When I come off of certain ones, I'll be able to, more me will come back. So.
Once again, I was kind of afraid to really pay too much attention to my numbers, and I didn't want to start getting obsessed with, a 0.1 increase. But my numbers did start going up, and eventually when the doctor said that I could go home, I had been there for about 6 or 7 weeks, and hadn't really gotten my hopes up about when I was gonna go home. And so when he told me that I could go home, I was like, are you sure? Are you sure it's okay? Really? I can go home? Like, wait a minute. Tomorrow? What? But I live here. I have to pack all my stuff. So yeah, it worked, and despite all the side effects, here I am, and in 2 days I'm having my 1-year anniversary.
What UNC did to help me through this was they have conference sessions before you actually commit to the transplant, where they go through different things and give you a chance to ask questions. They talk to your family and give them time to ask questions so they'll know what to expect. I have 2 preteens, so they talk to my girls to kind of put them at ease also. UNC was very helpful, and still is, although we've been out for a year. I can call, they answer right away. If I don't call, they call me, or they call my doctor at home and say she needs to do this, so that they keep in contact with my doctors there, and it makes me feel better. Yes, because when I left, that was a scary feeling, to walk out of this hospital and know I had to take care of myself away from them. So that took a while to get used to.
The care is just phenomenal. And people who are on the cutting edge are the ones that we're working with. And without knowing, I'm 99.9% sure that I would be out of here if I had not gotten properly diagnosed and found this avenue. And I found hope. I found a second chance.
I was surprised, I think, by the level of empathy and concern that my caregivers provided me. It was like I was the only person there. Everything that I needed or wanted, someone was there to answer a question, to provide whatever it was that I needed or wanted. I can't think of anything that they could have done to make it a more positive experience than it was. I have nothing but good things to say about these people.
No one ever hurt me, ever. And I know that's always a fear you have. Someone's going to stick a needle and it's going to hurt, no one ever hurt me. I think that the doctors and the nurses at Chapel Hill are just outstanding, because they not only come in and check on you from a physical standpoint, how are you doing, they make time to sit down and talk with you. And I've never known doctors to share as much time. I know that in most places where I've been under a doctor's care, they've been on a pretty tight schedule. And they come in, they check on you, they make sure you're doing okay, prescribe what you need, and they're on their way. I have to say the doctors were awesome.